This is just about the original meaning of tarot, which was the vision quest. And the reason I'm adding this in the beginning is so that you understand that when you're doing the tarot, you have a choice. You can read the way most of us do now, just reading the cards, what's going to happen as fortune telling. But you can also read them with the vision quest, that every character is you, and you are on this inner journey. And the Major Arcana especially is the vision quest. The fool, he's about to, look at him, he's about to go under. He's on the cliff edge. He's about to go under. That's Völund the Smith. I tie this to Norse mythology because Völund the Smith gets captured by the king downstairs, the downstairs king, and he ties him up in a smithy, the magician, the next card, where he has to make things for the king. And but he's inside of his own mind. The king is his subconscious, the king downstairs. So he makes things for the king, but he has his own agenda, and that is to he wants to repair a ring, and the ring is his soul. The ring is his union with his soul. It's broken. So what he does first, he kills off the 2 spoiled princes. He makes drinking vessels, and he has precious mead with his soul, the high priestess. The moon is actually a symbol of the soul creation. I'm going to link this, actually. If you're interested, I can talk a little bit more about it, but there is, the moon is really a symbol of the soul, and the feminine is soul, basically. I'll talk a little bit about the symbolism and why they use that symbolism, but for now, just know that, she is connected to water, which is creator of all. She is the soul. And then he repairs the ring, and, he becomes very much the empress. So we're talking about the masculine and feminine within the person. But he makes himself Valkyrie feathers so he can escape the king. So, he has these Valkyrie feathers now. He flies to the king, and he tells him what he's done. He said that he killed the 2 spoiled princes, and now he's going to escape. So the king downstairs is the emperor. And the king, he basically says he's going to shoot him down because he has also captured his brother. And his brother, Völund's brother, is called the Egil, and I think that means terror. And he says to terror, it's another aspect of Völund, shoot him down. But he has the blood of the spoiled princess, and he signals to terror to Egil where to shoot. So he aims at the blood of the princess, so Völund doesn't get hurt, and he flies back to Alfheim because Völund is an elf, so it's home of the elves. Meets his wife, himself. He's integrating himself. They live happily ever after. So that's one vision quest, from the Fool to the Hierophant. But it's all about the seeker's mind. It's not about, meeting somebody or anything like that. You can read the cards that way as well. But originally, it was about the vision quest. Adam and Eve, that's the same story. They're the same being. The snake, has kind of lowered itself. That's the awareness that's in the tree of temptation. So that basically means awareness has been gone into sort of the material realm, but they can also go up to the heavenly realm, which is the angel, But they get cast out of Eden. They basically mean they're going on a vision quest, and in the chariot they are traveling into themselves again. So there's another vision quest, and who do they meet? They meet themselves, but now they meet themselves as both the divine, the divine feminine and the monsters. This is Beauty and the Beast. Think of Belle when she entered into the castle. That castle is her mind. But were there any people there? There was a monster there. And then there were like a teapot and then, objects. She didn't see them as people because she hasn't awakened herself yet. When she loves the beast, which is herself, they're on the infinite timeline, time was about to run out. But then time is restored. She's on the infinite timeline, and the teapot is suddenly a real person that she can talk to. But it's herself she's awakened. When she loved that part of herself as well, he became beautiful as well. Like, he wasn't ugly. It was just what she thought before she could love him, which is her. She's the same being. Then it's back up again. So now the hermit is on top of the mountain, coming out of the vision quest. And a completely new understanding. So why is the Wheel of Fortune such a lucky card? Well, if you think about it in the vision quest, it is now the seeker has a lot of information. Before, they acted on misinformation. Before, they were led astray, but now they come out of the vision quest, they have had this integration. They know now what they want. They know what is the truth. They're not going to be led astray anymore. So Wheel of Fortune, because it's a vision quest card, like all the Major Arcana cards, it's like a lucky card, but it's because now you have all the information. But the reason the seeker has information is because they've gone within. Then justice means there is more balance to, there's balance actually in the seeker's life with justice, because this is, now they're operating on a completely new level. Now they know more. So now they have to maybe also be a little bit more careful as well, because with more information and more awareness, they also have to be a little bit careful how they use that power as well. The Hangman is the next Vision Quest card. It's probably the most Vision Questy of all the Vision Quest cards, because now we're getting into more the Indian tradition. Odin hanging on Yggdrasil, he becomes so still that he achieves what I believe breathless state, which is an Indian practice. Like it's the yogis achieve breathless state. How do I know that Odin is a yogi? Well, we don't have really the context anymore to interpret the symbols, but Odin has a seat that translates to gateway, and he sits in that seat. Then he has omnipresence. So I believe that is the pineal gland, and he has achieved this connection to the divine. So he's omnipresent. How did he achieve it? Well, he did a lot of meditation. He hung on Yggdrasil. He became still, so still, that he got the wounds. The wounds means divine secrets. And but who gives it to him? There are Norns at the well. The well is the water in the well is created of all. The Norns is his soul, but he has to still himself first. He has to be completely still. So the Hanged Man is a very meditative card. Pinocchio is exactly the same story of Odin hanging on Yggdrasil. Pinocchio hangs on an oak tree. Odin gets rescued by the Norns. Pinocchio gets rescued by the blue fairy. Odin, he hangs there for 9 nights, trying to become better. Pinocchio tries to work really hard in school. He works in the theater. He tries to be better too. But he changes into a donkey, which is more like the animal self again, like we saw in the strength card. He gets discarded into the ocean. Odin goes into the well, when Pinocchio is in the ocean, he gets eaten by a fish. Inside the fish, he meets Papa. And he realizes finally he loves Papa, because after there has been some kind of divine union in the stories, there's always a change in character because the heart opens. Belle can see people as people, not as objects. And now Pinocchio finally loves Papa. So he rescues Papa. He escapes the fish. He swims himself and Papa to shore. He comes out of the vision quest. It's such a heroic act, that his soul, the blue fairy, that now turn him into a real boy. This transformation from the inside out. Odin receives divine secrets and he becomes a magical being, an activated being. Pinocchio means pineal nut. So, he is really a story about Odin for children, basically. So it's the same story. So Death card is, it is, when they said in the old Norse stories that you have to die in battle or you end up in a frozen state in hell, they did mean the battle is a battle within. It is a vision quest. Not all of you survives it. Like Pinocchio, his wooden toy self didn't survive. In Beauty and the Beast, the monster didn't survive. He becomes a beautiful human being. All of the animated characters, all the like the teapot and dustpan and all that, they become real people, so they have a transformation as well. So not all of you survives the vision quest, but you become more real. Temperance is the next card, which is divine essence. Then the seeker, after receiving divine essence, they have to free themselves from the chains of their own fears. The tower comes down, the limitations falls off. Their bad habits gets cast out. Then they come out in the star, the moon, and the sun. So the star, this is divine essence as well. The moon, there is water there as well, but the light is more, it's more on now, but the moon, is the soul, and the soul now is, there is changes happening, so much so that the seeker might feel different, so different that they're wondering what's the new reality basically going to be. But the sun, the inner child, is well and truly alive. Judgment is basically coming out of the vision quest, a new person, coming out of the tomb, and you can see the angel. It's a higher self. It's pulling the person out of the tomb. That they were dead, not dead, but it's like being frozen, being not alive. And then there's full integration here in the soul. So I believe there are 3 vision quests, like I described, and if you can understand that the tarot is really actually there to help you connect to yourself. So when you're working with symbols, you looking at pictures, that will make it, I believe that it makes dreaming easier to have vivid dreams, because working with, you're looking at pictures, you're working with symbolism, it's much easier for your mind to give you symbols to work with in the dream time. So I believe that we are already in the vision quest right now, because we came from our higher self and down to here. So we're already kind of veiled. We don't really know what's going on very much. We're very frightened a lot of the times. There's a lot of uncertainties. We're faced with a lot of stuff. That is the vision quest. But we can go inside the vision quest in dream time as well. And we can look at ourselves. We can ask questions and see ourselves and see what we're dealing with and see how we're coping emotionally, and maybe also get more support. Because in the dream time, that is a world. When you're dreaming, there is a world, another realm created. So you can ask the creator world to give you the vision quest that you need the most. You can ask to work with your guides, your angels. You can ask to see your soul. You can want to speak to your higher self. You can ask for all of that, and you can work through so much stuff. And your life when your day-to-day life doesn't have to be so dramatic. It can actually be very, very peaceful. And when you are looking at the tarot cards, when you're getting sort of scary cards, look at it from the vision quest. You're having some major breakthroughs, purifications. You're letting go of your old self. You can't stay the same forever. It's not possible. Cups, is maiden with meat. That's the soul who's connected to create a wall. Wands is, Odin has a wand. Odin has a staff. That's the masculine energy that is meant to motivate you and be brave to go even attempt a vision quest. So it's meant to actually be motivation to go inwards. Now we're using this masculine energy that we all have within us to try and have some kind of world domination. We try to, very competitive out in the world. Everybody wants to achieve something in the world. But it's not really channeled within very much. It's manifests itself with competition, trying to get, something out of this reality. A lot of it is, even when you're looking at spirituality nowadays, it's mostly about just manifesting things. So that's the masculine who's not really going within, because it just wants to get something from this reality rather than looking within. But wands is really meant to, here's 4 of wands. It's actually meant to motivate you to go within, to connect to yourself. And here, the seeker in 4 cups is very dissatisfied, but it's the maiden with mead, which is the soul. It's there to offer the seeker, if you're dissatisfied, you need to go into yourself and find out how you can awaken yourself, awaken your soul. It's very easy to be led astray as well, because there's so much misinformation as well about who we are. We lost the vision quest. Our ancestors had the vision quest, so they had this connection to themselves, so they were not easily fooled, because they had the truth available to them. They had also, they had the Seder, that's Norse shamanism, which basically just meant someone who knew how to create they used Amanita muscaria, but they knew how to basically work with that mushroom. It was a very ancestral mushroom. It was a lot of tradition, and it had a purpose to it. It wasn't recreational. It was there to do the work, actually, the inner work. So they didn't believe that, when you become really awakened and enlightened, that you become like this big being. They thought you became smaller, because in Norse myth, the beings that saves the day is a little man. Völund, whose name means the land of the holy path. He's an elf, a light being. And then you have the dwarves who saves Odin from himself. Odin is Kvasir in middle poetry. He thinks he's the most knowledgeable being that ever lived, but he gets killed by two dwarves called Fjalar and Galar, meaning fault and error. So clearly he wasn't the most knowledgeable, because if he was, he wouldn't be killed by fault and error, but there himself, this part of himself, the little man in him who knew you're wrong. And they turn Kvasir into middle poetry. Then they kill a man called Son of Screamer. I think his name is Gillinger, which means Son of Screamer. Generational hurt and pain. Odin needs this mead because he is called the evildoer, Bolverk. But he doesn't enter straight away. Fjalar and Galar, they compensate the murder of Gillinger and gives the mead to Sutunger, which means heavy with drink. He's a son of Gillinger, and he gives the mead to his daughter, Gunnlod, meaning war initiator, and she guards this inside a mountain called Clashing Rock Mountain. So now we know that Odin, who's now, he's called Bolverk, he's an evil man, he's triggered, he's angry, he needs his mead to redeem himself. He needs it very badly. So he goes within himself on the vision quest, and he doesn't kill 9 slaves, but he gets them to fight over a sky. So they kill themselves fighting over the sky. So it kills off slave mentality. The slaves belong to a man called Baugi, meaning bent one. So that's a part of himself that kind of functions. But you don't want to just function, because being a high-functioning person does not necessarily mean that you're very healthy. It just means that you know how to kind of get along with things. But you might not even have your own thoughts and ideas. You're just kind of going along with things. So he replaces the 9 slaves. Then he says to Baugi, we need to get the mead. So they start digging into the mountain. And Odin has a digging tool called Rati, meaning correcting. So he's trying to correct his ways. He managed to dig a little hole. Baugi wants the mead himself. So he tries to kill Odin. But Odin, he slithers in as a snake. His awareness. He goes in there. He meets his soul, Gunnlod. He stays 3 nights with her, and he has his 3 vessels. The mead is in 3 vessels called burden, meaning praying, or like communion with the divine. It means sun, which is like redeeming. Then an odherir, which means calming of the waters. It calms his emotions. Then he flies out of the vision quest back to Osgore again. And then there's a son born out of his 3 nights with Gunnlod. And his name is Bragi, and that means noble. So that's his new being. So he went from Bolverk, evildoer, to Bragi, noble. Bragi is where we get bragging from, because they used to do bragging rituals in Yule time, which is Christmas time, where they would talk about all the amazing things they would do the next year, because Bragi is your best self. So they believe that if you go within yourself, you can transform yourself from your worst self to your best self, simply by going within. They didn't have this duality about good and evil. They didn't believe in that. They didn't believe you're evil. They just believed you're someone who needs to be on the vision quest. You lost touch with yourself. You're not dealing with yourself. So they didn't have this good and evil. They just have, you've been led astray. Maybe you believed in something that wasn't 100%. Maybe, you didn't, a lot of it is just our false beliefs. We believe in something that's not really true, and then it creates a lot of emotional problems in us. We believe all kinds of things, and creates emotional unhappiness in us. But Hela, she's you have to go through hell to get to heaven. Hela is she is the goddess of the subconscious, but it's more specifically where you have all of your negative emotions. So that's, if you can go there and investigate your negative emotions, that will make you whole, because hel, I believe, comes from hel, basically meaning whole, or heli, meaning holy. So either way, it's like something you're doing to purify yourself. And she is half corpse, half beautiful woman. So that basically means you go, you're killing off the part of you that cannot, the miserable part of you, and the beautiful part is the new beautiful you, basically. But her name is Idun, meaning forever young. So that's another goddess as well, you know. So they're talking about the soul, our connection to ourselves. Are we even connecting to ourselves? And if we're not, how does that look like in the world? Like now, people saying like people don't have souls. That's like as belief system spun out there on the internet. But our ancestors who investigated their minds, yes, they used the Amanita muscaria, but I think even before that, it came from India and all the meditation things that they did there with, awakening themselves through the pineal gland and all that. They connected to the quantum field, and that's why they said everything is alive, everything is conscious. So we went from everything is conscious, even a rock, to I don't even think you have a soul. Like it's completely different now because we've lost that connection to ourselves. We lost that vision quest. Without the vision quest, it's very hard really to go within, because it's even hard to meditate if you have a lot of sad emotions. Meditation can be really difficult. So I think the vision quest, when I do it at nighttime, it's really important just to be able to meditate. You might have to actually look within yourself a little bit to start looking at those emotions, those feelings, those beliefs. What is the truth? You can ask yourself, you can ask to talk to your higher self, what is the truth, about whatever it is that's upsetting you, whatever it is that you are working through. So I've kind of changed a lot from where I started when I was doing tarot, and I really like to see opportunities in the tarot. I like to do manifestations and all these kinds of things. I'm not really interested in that anymore. But a lot of people get kind of stuck in manifestations. But that is the masculine that's meant to go within, needing to go somewhere. Our drive, our ambition has to go somewhere. And so if you don't go within, it gets manifested out there in the world. And look how competitive it is out there. It is constant, just that masculine energy is just being sent out all the time. But very rarely is it going in to meet the feminine. So I do encourage you guys to maybe keep a dream journal. Look at the cards as this is you. You are all these characters. How are you going? What are you dealing with right now? That's really important. If you only get once, you're dealing with a lot of masculine energy. You're most likely on the go all the time, trying to conquer something. If you get a lot of cups, then you are most likely living a very emotional life, very connected to yourself. And those times are really beautiful, but I do think we can really live more soulful by actively going on the vision quest. And I don't think there's any better time to do that than during nighttime. So there's so many ways you can approach the tarot cards where it doesn't have to be scary. It can be you're giving yourself advice. What does it mean? What does it mean when you're getting a card like Ten of Swords? Well, it means that you need to get to the bottom of your issues, basically, bottom belief. When you completely just let go, it just didn't work. Whatever you believed in wasn't the highest truth, so you have to let it go at some point, because that belief system, when we get very stuck in our mind and we think this is the highest truth, and maybe it isn't, and then we believe in it so much, but it's causing some problems everywhere. Ten of Swords is really when we're ready to let it go. So then it becomes quite a positive card. But that PDF is really cool if you just want to have a look more at how to read from higher perspective. If you do the dreams, you might get very similar symbolism to the tarot as well, But I do, if someone gives their name to me in a dream, I always go and look up for the name meaning, because there's a message there. So, but you will work with symbols that you can understand. Your own mind is giving you symbols, so you will be able to interpret them. So let's go.